So, you want to buy a new vehicle? We should talk about that. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Aubrey, and today we're going to talk about what you should think about financially if you want to buy a new vehicle. If you're enjoying this content, I invite you to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and let's get going. Now, for most people, having a vehicle is a necessary expense. You got to get around, and unless you live in the big city, you're going to need a vehicle to drive around, get you where you need to go. And that vehicle, for most people, is one of the most expensive purchases that they will make in their lives, second only to a house. So it's important to think about, okay, financially, how do I approach this? And this is going to go beyond sort of the typical things that most people think about when buying a vehicle, such as the styling, the type of vehicle that they need, tow capacity, what options, the safety ratings. All of these things are what most people would typically consider, as well as the price. But even beyond finding a good price, just thinking about some other aspects of the vehicle and the actual costs involved before making that big step and making that purchase. So I want to split this into two parts. Part one, or part A, would be things to do before you purchase, and then part B, things to do after you purchase. Most people can afford a vehicle that is about 1/3 of their annual income. So if you're making $60,000, you can comfortably afford a vehicle that costs $20,000. Because there are a lot of expenses that come along with a vehicle. In addition to just the cost of the car payment, there's also insurance, fuel costs, and maintenance to consider. And perhaps the biggest cost of all these three is something that we probably never think about, and that is depreciation. And depreciation is just as the value of your vehicle declines over time, just naturally as part of the process of it becoming less valuable, that money basically disappears from the vehicle. The way depreciation works is in the first year, the depreciation is really high. In fact, NerdWallet says it's 20 to 30% of the value of the vehicle is lost in depreciation just in that first year. Then for the next 2 to 6 years, the value will decrease 15 to 18%. And this is important to remember because most people will buy a car, have it for a few years, and then go to sell it back or trade it in. And trying to get whatever money they can when they make that trade-in is going to show how much depreciation has taken away from the value of the vehicle. And the depreciation on a vehicle changes depending on the type of vehicle. Generally, luxury type vehicles are going to have a higher depreciation than economy vehicles. And as mentioned before, that depreciation is going to be much higher when the vehicle is fairly new, and then it comes down over time as the years go by to less and less every year. So what does this depreciation mean? If you're going to buy a vehicle brand new, that first year, the depreciation is going to remove a lot of the value of that vehicle from you. So it's advisable to not buy brand new, but instead, if you can, buy it a year old, and that way you will avoid paying that 20 to 30% depreciation. Instead, the first owner will pay that for you, and then you can pick it up after that. Or if you buy the vehicle and it's 5 years old, you've already avoided a lot of the depreciation, and in many cases you can purchase it for half the price it was when it was brand new. Granted, there will be higher maintenance costs, and you have to think about reliability as these cars get older, and we'll talk about that shortly. You can go to Edmunds.com, and they actually have a true cost to own estimator, which you can use to put in the year of the vehicle, the make and model, and it will break down cost to own according to their calculations for 5 years. You can kind of see what the estimated cost will be. And it takes into account things like depreciation, finance charges, the fuel, the maintenance, and really just looking at that can be a real eye-opener. I knew this vehicle was expensive to begin with, but I didn't realize, okay, this is what they're estimating, that's a big number. Maybe I want to shop for a less expensive vehicle. So that's depreciation. Another thing to think about is the reliability of the vehicle. In many cases, vehicles that have a lot of options, they've got the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, the backup camera, the stability control, traction control, snow mode, speed sensitive steering, a sunroof, a moonroof, adaptive damping suspension, night vision, hover mode, cruise control, auto crash avoidance, all-wheel drive, rain sensing wipers, automatic dimming headlights, park assist, lane avoidance, lane departure warnings. All these options, they all represent opportunities in an older vehicle. I'm talking about 3 years or 5 years old and beyond, that will tend to break down. So if your plan is to own this vehicle for more than, say, 5 years, you want to drive it until it can't be driven anymore. You're talking 15 years, 20 years, even beyond that. Having all these options, all these luxury gizmos are just all opportunities for things that can break over time. If you are planning to keep the vehicle for a long amount of time, you might want to opt for a vehicle that has less options. Either you choose a vehicle that's more geared toward economy, which tend to have less options anyway, or you get a more expensive vehicle, but you opt out of getting a lot of the options. Maybe you decide you are looking for a model, although it's offered with a moonroof, you don't want the moonroof because, you know, a lot of times they leak or they break, and they always break when they're open and it's about to rain. So that's just an example of something you might want to avoid when you're going to purchase your vehicle. Kind of thinking a little more long term. Also thinking a little more long term, do some research on reliability just in general of that particular vehicle. There are a couple of ways to do this. You could go to popular websites such as Edmunds that does a lot of car reviews and has long-term reliability ratings available on different vehicles. Or you can also go to enthusiast forums online. That takes a lot more time, but it will probably give you a better idea of the types of reliability issues that a particular model is having, but also a lot of the fixes. If it's a quick and easy fix, this typically breaks, but there's a very inexpensive way to fix it, or a way to maybe prevent it from breaking in the first place. That's all good information to know. One of the typical ones that comes to my mind is on a lot of these vehicles, they have like active damping suspension or air ride suspension. And in my experience, those are very prone to failing. And the cost to repair those are very high because they use like the airbag suspensions. You have to buy a new airbag and install this thing. In fact, there are instructions online in a lot of cases how to actually convert to a more standard type of suspension. For those that are keeping the vehicle long term and you're going to keep it beyond 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, having a more standard suspension, not as fancy, but that will last, is more important. So knowing these maintenance issues, doing this research will help you to make a choice and decide if this is the type of vehicle that you want, or if you want to go with a different vehicle that maybe either doesn't have those type of issues associated with it further down the line, or the issues that it does have, because all vehicles will have issues, but it has issues that you're willing to deal with or that you're willing to take a chance with. But in general, I will argue that you want to do the research for the vehicle that you want, be okay with the reliability issues that you know are going to happen, and then keep it long term. Because keeping it long term, buying it at least 1 year old, if not 3 or 4 years old, and then keeping it till it's 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, you will escape so much of the depreciation that is going on. The depreciation will happen, but when you average it across the number of years that you've owned the vehicle, it will be a relatively low number. Also, whenever you purchase a vehicle, you have to pay the sales tax. And in Virginia, it's like 5%. So on a $40,000 vehicle, that's going to be like $2,100. And if you do that every couple of years, you're buying a new vehicle every couple of years, you keep paying that sales tax again and again. If you keep the same vehicle for many years, you only pay the sales tax once when you purchase it. Okay, so that is the first part, is the research and so on leading up to the purchase. Now, I want to go to the second part, which is what to do after you've purchased your vehicle. Okay, so first of all, after you've made your purchase, stop looking. Don't do any more shopping around. Don't check prices over here. Don't wonder what deals are going on over there. You've made your decision. It's time to just look to the future and move forward with it and enjoy the vehicle that you got. Secondly, you want to fall in love with it again and stay in love with it. I mean, you're already in love with it. So you want to continue to enjoy this vehicle. And I found a couple ways that I do that I think are very effective. The first of all is keep it clean. Wash it frequently. Some may say this is a waste of time, it's uncomfortable, I'm getting wet with the water, or I don't know how to do it, or I'm afraid I'll scratch it, or it's expensive to do it. But just try to keep the car clean. I personally wash my car. I mean, if it's dirty and it's been raining a lot and I've been driving around and it's just like a rainy time of year, I will wash the car once a week, sometimes more than that. Also, clean the interior, vacuum it, get the papers and any trash in there, get that out so that the vehicle looks nice. To me, that's just a part of enjoying the vehicle. It's a part of the joy of ownership. I've paid for this thing, I'm continuing to pay for it. I want to spend time with it, I want to enjoy it, I want it to look nice. Another aspect of it is it gets you out and about doing something. Some people spend a lot of time keeping their house clean and doing things around the house. Why could this not also apply to doing things with the car and keeping the car clean and using that as a way to enjoy the vehicle? Another thing after you've purchased the vehicle is to repair any annoyances. And these are things like if it has a rattle, if there's something that one of the cup holders is broken. I know I bought a used car, one of the cup holders was broken and the automatic headlight adjusters didn't work. This was a fancy car. I went online and I bought a replacement cup holder and I looked at how-to videos and I got the headlights so they worked. All these things, even if they're minor, over time they will detract from your enjoyment of the vehicle. Another example is floor mats. A lot of times they're just not even there. The dealership probably threw them out because they were disgusting. Or if they're there, they're torn or damaged, or if the vehicle is more than just a couple years old, those floor mats are in tough shape usually. And I buy brand new ones online. You can get the generic ones, but I recommend spending a little more money and getting ones made for that vehicle, the ones that originally came with that vehicle. And this is one more piece also. If you can, maintain the vehicle yourself. It doesn't mean you have to turn yourself into a mechanic. And in my mind, the number one biggest thing is oil changes. If you can do your own changes on the vehicle, you will be miles ahead of most everybody else that has to take the car in for that, because that is the most frequent maintenance item you have to go to the shop for. And if it takes a specialty oil or a lot of oil, or it's a fancier car, those oil changes are going to cost $100, $125 or more. And if you can do it yourself, you save that every time. And again, this goes back to enjoying the vehicle and getting to know your vehicle and spending time with it. You spent all this money on it and you get to drive it, that's nice. But also, spending this time with it as well can also be a way that you enjoy it. But even oil changes aside, if that's just not your thing, then checking the tire pressure and check the level of the oil. Check the level of the windshield washer fluid. These are easy things to do that will enhance your ownership of the vehicle and that will make it more enjoyable. So that really covers, for those financially minded, just some things that I think about when I'm going to purchase a new car. Maybe not new, but new to me, is the things I do before and then the things I do after to kind of continue to enjoy the car for as long as I can. So if this content was helpful for you, I invite you to subscribe and hit the like button, and we'll see you on the next video.